Hi, my name's Paul McCarthy with Hero Facility Services. And this is, I believe, our fifth edition, Facilities First, where I put the spotlight on facility managers, the guys and girls who keep everything going while you're sitting there, in this case, in the dentist chair, making your smile pretty. My guest today is going to be Nick Straka with Heartland Dental. And I'm excited to have this conversation with Nick and talk about a few things. We're going to start off with a little fun thing. So, Nick, welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Paul. Man, I'm like I told you leading up to this. I've been excited and nervous all at the same time, just making sure you've been hyping me up. I've got to make sure I deliver here.
Well, there's a little bit of folklore about Nick around. So I'm just going to say you do have, big shoes to fill because you've built them.
Yes,
So
sir.
let's go ahead, and I always like to start off with something fun. And I was going to say something about you and I both like the gym. My best friend name is Jim, but you like actually working out. But I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. But a little birdie told me that you actually have a gym in your house. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it's literally located up the stairs to my left shoulder right here. I walk up, yeah, 4 flights of stairs, and had spent many years putting it together over time. And so it's a good little place for my wife and my kids and I just to kind of jump into maybe over a lunch hour after work, and it keeps me grounded. Facilities, high stress, a lot of tension. What better way to burn that off than just staring up at a gym that's right next to you? So
That that is awesome. That is awesome. So the another little birdie also told me that, is it true that you set up some wiffle ball kind of batting cage for your son?
well, that was already here whenever we moved here. The gentleman that lived here before us, he had quite the genes in his family. He had quite a few kids that were going through the baseball and softball organizations where we live, and a couple of them played collegiate ball. So yeah, it's there is a batting cage. My oldest son, did use it quite a bit this year. He's been moving up, and he was going through a little bit of a slump at the plate this year. So he wanted to get out there and try and work himself out of it. And by the end of the season, he'd gotten back on the right track.
That's one of the things I love about you, Nick, is your passion for facilities, but you have a passion for fatherhood,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
that's awesome. So, keeping with the baseball theme, we all know it's America's pastime. Who's your son's favorite team and player?
Well, he really doesn't watch a whole lot of baseball, believe it or not. I mean, he's more well, I'm more of a football guy, but we have a thing in our house. We're gonna have our kids play a different variety of sports, and make sure that they're being involved in the community, because that way it kind of lifts everybody else up, and then also at the same time it gives them a lot of the skills I think that are very important for not only youth but just anybody in general. Whether it be communication, interpersonal, and just being able to either fail or accept failure, humble themselves, things like that I think are important early on, just to get a taste of before you start taking those steps. And it doesn't come as easy, taking a loss, or being able to handle winning and being successful at it. I think are really hard traits to come by.
Well, and one of the things I love about youth sports is it really teaches them how to work together as a team,
Absolutely.
which kind of sets us up for our future careers. Whatever we go, in whatever industry we go in, we're going to have to deal with a team.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, speaking of teams, you have, I think, 1,700 stores underneath you. Am I right on that?
18. We're at 1,800, a little over 1,800 right now. So
1,800
yeah,
stores.
yeah, a little over 1,800.
So I always like to say facility managers are chaos managers. Is that kind of what you would agree with?
Oh yeah, I would consider it to be chaos, but I mean it's good chaos. It's sometimes it's self-imposed, but also at the same time, there's other instances where, hey, this is what we signed up for. So wouldn't have it any other way.
That's awesome. So your world is a little different than some other multi-site worlds. I mean, you're dealing with people in a dental chair, and emergencies happen, things happen. So compare your world to a different type of facility. What are some of the nuances that you get to deal with specifically in the dental and medical industry facilities?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for the most part, I mean, industries don't, I mean, I wouldn't say differ. I mean, mostly. At the end of the day, I think from our standpoint, the last thing we want is there to be any impacts or alterations or disruptions to supporting our customer. Our customer in this case is the doctor and their teams, and their customer is the patient. But at the end of the day, the last thing that, me, my team, the facilities team, or any other teams with inside of Heartland, the last thing we want is to hear, patient care has been disrupted. Because again, if it's one room or a break room or anything like that, it has impacts on how those teams are supported. So I would say for the most part, our focus is always, at the end of the day, avoid disruption at any point in time. I mean, I use the term a lot of time. I will throw resources at it, how many ever it takes to get the situation resolved, to make sure that I don't have to, mark an office as an office down or operations down, because that's the last thing that we want. Because again, at the end of the day, we've got to be able to support our doctors, our teams at the highest level. And the whole point of them coming to us is saying, hey, listen, we just want to do dentistry, or we want to support our patient base. You guys are the facilities managers. You guys are the emergency handlers. The chaos controllers. I mean, if we want to keep going on, you guys got to be able to say in that moment, the last thing I should be doing is closing my doors to my patients. So do what you've got to do. Make sure you have all the correct providers in place, that they understand what's the service level expectations. If I say, hey, this is emergency, it's an emergency. You're handling it with the utmost care and the utmost urgency to get somebody there. So I don't want to say we're any different, but, in a sense that, if something impacts a smaller site, I would say they would all agree that it still hinders how we do things.
That kind of leads into, I don't know if you know my background. My background's in restaurants and property management.
Yes, sir.
So I was kind of a chaos coordinator too. And that's one of the reasons when I started Facilities First is I wanted to put a spotlight on the guys and girls that really are behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks that everything works because it's just magic and that's how it happens. But there's somebody controlling the chaos behind the scenes. And, it's my thanks to you guys for what y'all do and how y'all do it. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
It's hard to not take work home sometimes. And as much as we try, sometimes we do. What keeps you and your team up at night?
Whenever I first saw this question, I thought really long and hard, and you had actually added some examples, to the question. And I immediately said all of the above, and I would, I know some people would laugh at that and be like, well, what is all of the above? Just imagine anything that could go wrong and it going wrong, so those, I mean, it could be something as simple as a pest issue, all the way to like probably the most catastrophic where we have a disaster preparedness situation. But, truthfully, for me personally, I have an exceptional supporting cast. The team that I help support, I am just so thankful to be able to know them and be able to work alongside of them. But I would say one that lives out, they live out our mission and vision as a team culture, and that's just delivering world-class support. I mean, I'll end it there. They deliver world-class support, and a lot of times there's things that we will do as a group they might excel at everything and it still fail, I mean, and that's inevitable. There's situations where we check all the boxes and we get to the last one and it's like, why didn't this work? And then at that point you're just pulling straws. So for me, it was one of our biggest challenges is obviously, just value in the facilities industry. And I know that you probably can relate and agree to some of that. And I know others that might. It's such a thankless job. It's always behind the scenes. And you said it's behind the curtain. I always look at it like legitimately the Wizard of Oz. We're doing all these things and and all these knobs and buttons and making the fire go out and on all at the same time. And I wish there was just more understanding, more focus on these individuals that really have to manage so many different things all at one separate time. Every morning we have something with inside of our team where we sit and for 30 minutes we talk about what the day prior was like in terms of work order counts and how many calls that we got. And I just sit there and I look and we've got 6 people, 7 people on this call. And I'm seeing some of my team members that have, 120 active work orders or 130. And it's just like, can you imagine having 130 different tasks or different situations going on at the same time? And, again, it just makes me feel truly appreciative for them. I just wish more people got to see that and got to experience that. And that's ultimately what drives me to do things like this. I welcome the opportunity to talk about them and talk about the things that we do and maybe just bring some light to what goes on in the facilities world.
And Nick, I have to say that I always say, leaders will water you and help you grow. Bosses will stunt your growth.
Yes, sir.
And I think you exemplify leadership. And I know that a lot of people in the facilities world look up to you and they respect you because of I think one of your advantages is your background in coaching.
Yes, sir.
And coaching and teaching and development of your staff is huge. So first of all, I'd love to be a fly on the wall on one of those calls.
Yeah,
because, like you said, when you say 120 work orders, people are like, "Oh, okay." What you didn't say is you also have 120 dentists that are beating down their door saying, "What's going on with this? What's going on with that?" So there's so many moving parts in facilities. And people they just think it kind of goes on. It just happens.
Yep.
That HVAC goes down and it just automatically it's fixed.
Yeah. And again, one of the things, and our director, Kenneth Jones, he does a great job of wanting to make sure that we highlight wins for the week, that we're making sure we're putting those things at the forefront. And one of the things that some of the team talks about is like, well, I was thinking I was going to celebrate, hey, I got below 100 work orders or whatever. But as soon as I got below 100, I got 20 more. And again, it does not stop. And that's, again, some people would say, hey, that's job security. That's all part of it. And absolutely, we signed up for it. We knew what it entailed, but also at the same time, it's like, at some point in time, you expect there to be a delay, a slowdown. There in facilities, there's no slowdown. It's all gas. It's all gas here.
Yep, it's all gas and it's multitasking, and it goes back to what we were talking about before the show started. Is sometimes you have to have a little bit of squirrel in you.
Yes.
And anybody that knows me knows that I am the big time squirrel, and I didn't know you were a big time squirrel also.
Right there.
But I'm noticing that a lot of facility managers are squirrels because you have to be 3 steps ahead. And it's something that, the squirrel syndrome kind of helps us with.
Yep. So, just being able to jump back and forth from topic to topic without missing a beat, I think most people will probably see this and will be like, yeah, for sure. That guy's definitely one. So 100%.
Well, I do a thing called Random Acts of Kindness. So you might get a squirrel shirt at your house pretty soon.
I'll wear it with pride.
You'll be part of the Squirrel Club.
Yes, sir.
So what fails more often than people expect? I mean, we know that HVAC tends to fail always during the summertime,
Yeah.
or the heating fails during the winter. But what are some of the weird repeat offenders that you have to deal with?
Well, I mean, and again, you kind of highlighted it. I mean, the obvious one that comes to my mind is HVAC. It's probably our most pressing issue. It's our most expensive, and nothing shuts down an office faster, than HVAC. And so, I would say probably one of the strangest reoccurring would be that we got for a while was restroom door closers in employee and patient bathrooms. And what was happening was they would be attached to the trim that is sitting right above the door. Would be kind of what their foundation or how they were tied into the wall. And that trim is only attached by finish nails, trim nails. And over time, thankfully we've got a large patient flow, but a large patient flow that needs to use the restroom. And it would actually detach that trim and would essentially just pull that trim right off the wall and make that door inoperable. And which that, we've got to have working restrooms to support our teams as well as our patients, because you never know. I mean, most of the time, everybody's trying to fit these appointments in either first thing in the morning, over a lunch hour, or late in the day. And they're just scrambling, they're just trying to live life on, in the fast lane, like us facilities people are doing. So we've got to make sure we have working restrooms. But that one I just kept seeing that one reoccurring over and over and over again for a while. So it was a weird one, and not one that we, were truly prepared for a bit.
That's interesting, because I guess you really don't want to put porta potties out in the parking lot.
Well, at the end of the day, I try to not do that at any point in time. It's not a good, if somebody walks into our office and says, hey, can I use the restroom while I wait? And they say, oh, you have to go use the porta john next to the space. It's not a good look.
Whenever I do these shows, obviously I try to keep myself on track, and sometimes I skip around, and so you're going to notice it. But
Yes, sir.
what makes a vendor more than just a fix-it crew? I mean, what makes you call them back?
We actually I've had multiple topics on that this week, and I think that's just I think it kind of resonates within the field. It's more than being able to handle a situation, handle it with care. It's how they respond. It's the delicacy in which they do, and you can see it from some vendors to the other, where it's if I pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Paul, I need you on this right now," you'll probably say, "Yep, got it, Nick. Give me 5 seconds." Click. And you call me back in 5 seconds, and the situation is resolved. It's all in the response for us. We can see it, we can feel it, it's tangible because it's through action. I'm all about the action. I'll always say, and my wife knows this, most people that are close to me know this, I'm all about action. You can tell me it until you're blue in the face, but until I actually see it, show me. Jerry, the old Jerry Maguire, show me the money. I want to see it. So for me, it's that sense of general appreciation for the partnership, and just the continue to the wherewithal to work through situations, whether they get escalated and they say, "Hey, listen, Nick, I screwed up here, we screwed up here," or, "Hey, we didn't get all the information, we showed up, it was a lot worse than what we fully expected, but this is what we're going to do. These are the things," and all these situations that, one, make my job a lot easier. Because if I don't have an operations team or somebody saying, "Nick, you dropped the ball," I'm coming back to my partner, and I'm like, "Hey, why did we drop the ball? What were the situations that were, preventing us to succeed?" And, for the most part, it's just, like I said, I want to be able to build a long lasting partnership with somebody. I want somebody to see, hey, Heartland Dental, they're a great company to work with, because whenever we do have a situation where, again, it is inevitable, we're going to have escalations. They're going to take time to respond and put together the information, and they're going to let us respond as well. And usually you can tell whenever a company takes the initiative and says, hey, we're not just only going to respond, but you're going to also see it. You're going to feel it from that standpoint.
I love your word because I use it all the time. It's not a vendor customer relationship. It's a partnership
Absolutely.
because we win together and we lose together.
Yep.
And I always tell our ops team, listen, if you make a mistake, fall on the sword because people appreciate the honesty, but have a plan in place to fix it once you're falling on your sword.
Yes, sir.
And that's where, for us at Hero, that we try to make sure that we have rock three principles: responsiveness, ownership, communication, consistency, and competitiveness.
Yep.
And we try to live by those. And they all have to do with facilities and what we have to deal with. So if you could wave a magic wand, speaking of Wizard of Oz, waving that wand.
Yeah, there we go.
What one problem in facility management would you fix?
I would see, again, and I don't know how people would view this, but at the same time, this is how I feel. I would say it's just the structure of where the facilities team value lies in a company culture, company standard. Again, I've only been in facilities 8 years. I mean, I know that there's people that have probably been longer, have spent longer time, and had different experiences. But this is from my standpoint, from 3 or 4 separate organizations, and just again how we see the footprint and how we see the teams and the growth of those teams. And I would just say there's an ability to create environments that a lot of people would not feel successful in, right? It takes a different mindset. And I mean, let's just go back to the squirrel mindset and just being multitaskers. And just making sure that every single day, you're coming home, you're pretty much taking off the fire extinguisher, the hard hat, the safety goggles. And as soon as you walk back out the door, you're picking those things right back up to go. There's not a whole lot of people that have to do that, on a consistent basis. And it just, like I said, it's just, there's a different value. Everybody thinks that's oh yeah, I can do that. I don't think so. And I've experienced a lot of people that have said, either one, I envy you for being able to put up with that level of communication, or to put up with that many escalations and be fine with it. And there's some people that will say, my wife being one of them, I couldn't do what you do. And she's a teacher. So, again, that's another chaos coordinator that, again, you have to appreciate what they do and you truly value it. And I know a lot of people that do, and then there's some that don't.
Yeah, that's a true point. And I've always grown up saying is in restaurants, in facilities, and property management is you have to be a duck. On top of water, you're just looking smooth, calm, and cool. But underwater, you're paddling like you know what.
Yes,
because
sir.
that's the reality is people are watching us, and we've got to have that composure. We've got to be cool, calm, and collected.
Right.
So we kind of talked about your ideal facility partner, but sometimes you have stuff go completely sideways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that call, Paul, I've got an emergency right now.
Yeah.
What's a time that you can recollect that happened to you, and how did that vendor save your what?
Yeah, I mean, again, I thought about this. I thought about this one long and hard, and I think that there's so many partners out there that just do a fantastic job of saving my hind end even on a daily basis. And again, I'd love to be able to highlight all of them, but I don't think there's enough time in the day to kind of truly signify what all they do on making my life a little bit easier. But I will say, again, we've got one partner that I truly feel like they go above and beyond whenever it comes to anything Heartland Dental. And I don't mean this with any disrespect to anybody else, but it was a few years ago, Hurricane Ian had hit, our most, heavily supported state. it was chaos, and again, we're still working to improve on some of our disaster preparedness stuff. We are so much better and so much more advanced than what we used to be. And I just remember it was chaos. And for anybody in those situations, the expectation is for me, I'm not in it. I'm not having to deal with my own personal property or things or loved ones in harm's way. So one of the things is teams were coming to us saying, hey, there's no power, there's no cell service, we don't have running water, and hey, we've got to do something. We've got to help in any way we can. And so I went to one of my trusted partners that I've been working with for, I'm still working with them to this day, and they said, yeah, we'll do whatever you need. And I just remember they grabbed gas cans, they grabbed packs of water. And they went around and they filled up generators at our team members' houses. They had tarps and they tarped roofs, for them. To put in perspective, that type of thing just kind of made me see, like, one, not from, just being happy that that's a partner that we have here at Heartland Dental, but that's people going above and beyond what the expectation is as working. They saw a need and they said, how can I help? And I think that you see it every day, and you just want more and more of that from people. And again, that's just selflessness in a sense, because they said, hey, what can we do? And they went out and did it with no expectation from us.
Yep. Right? And that's one of the beautiful things about business is when people go above and beyond and show their heart, not only for the community, but they show their heart for your employees. Yep. It goes a long way. And it really does. The reality of it is there are hundreds of facility services companies, hundreds of partners you could team up with, but it's all about that relationship and that trust that you build up. So we're going to go into, we have two more questions, and you've been in this 8 years, you've got a coaching background. So if you had somebody who was thinking about, okay, I'm getting into facility management, what advice would you give them?
That I would say that they understand the connection aspect of it the most. For me, that it's not just between I take that back. I would say it's not just between work or not working groups, like they work for us, right? It's important that they know we work together. Take time to get to know these people. You trust them, make sure that they understand what your expectations are, and don't set them up in any different scenarios where you wouldn't be successful either. So I would say, for the most part, understand that connection aspect of it. And then secondly is give yourself some grace, and make sure that you understand not everything's going to be fine all the time, and again, and if it's not fine all the time, chances are there are successes in there that you're not highlighting, because they say, some facilities people or some people just in certain industries look and say, hey, I should be doing better. There should not be as many calls as what we're getting. This failed. Why did it fail? And you kind of put that on yourself a lot more. And so for the most part, for me, don't be too hard on yourself, because I think I used the terminology Sisyphus, the Greek mythology, where you're constantly rolling a ball up a hill. And once you get to the top, that ball rolls back down. And so you have to start that process all over again. And so, obviously just making sure that you don't exhaust yourself, you give yourself time to understand situations, how to respond to them, how to react to them. And again, take time for yourself. Don't overload yourself, and understand you're human. I told the team this morning, I said, you would think I came from an alienated planet. I've got an S on my chest and a cape on my back, just how some people respond. I'm not Superman. I am only human. So I will stumble, I will fail. But the expectation is we recognize it, we find improvements, slow, constant improvement, progress, whether it's big or small, it's still considered progress. Nobody really defines that any different. You're moving in the same direction. So just give yourself some grace. Make sure you understand connections are important. It's not all about making more money or more sales and stuff like that. Make sure you understand people along the way really have a lasting impact on your growth and development.
That's huge. And I always tend to tell people one of my favorite sayings is, it's by Aesop. It's change the way you look at things, and the things you look at will change.
100%. Yeah, I'm all for the quotes, Paul. Man, I can quote you to death, man.
Well, you and I need to talk about the mind, because I love the mind and how it works. So
Yes, sir.
I'm going to leave you with what I found as my favorite question to end the shows with.
Yeah.
What is one question that I didn't ask because I didn't know to ask it of you?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. I always come down to, I feel like people never, I feel like they do in some aspects will ask, what can be done better? Like how can we improve things? Like from a facility, just overall facilities aspect, like how can we improve things? Like what is one thing that we could do that could have a lasting impact on, like, whether it be like facilities management in general, vendor management. I just think that so many times we get into, like, there's so much changing within the industry, there's all these different things, COVID happened. I mean, what a weird time.
Yeah.
Now, and I feel like so many industries are looking at, whether it's condensing their boxes down to be smaller, and I wouldn't say less inviting. I don't know if that's the correct term, but you don't have a space to really collaborate with other people. I'm always looking for areas and opportunities just like this to be able to collaborate and talk with somebody on the different side of the spectrum, and saying, hey, what's one thing that really irks you about facility managers that we could do better? And I just think to have that constant revolving door of saying, like, okay, I started doing this, and somebody says, Nick, that's so 2024, that type of philosophy. And I'm just, again, I think that we just need to continue to push the needle forward and make sure that everybody understands, like, that age-old philosophy of, like, why try and recreate the wheel? Well, I don't think the wheel looks like how it did when it was created back in, whether, 1700, the old wagon wheel, like, I mean, so people have recreated it. People have found ways to improve it and make it more efficient and better and longer lasting. And so I think that I want to just continue to make sure that we're doing everything we can to find improvements, whether it be from peer to peer, from partner to client, to partner to partner. Like I said, I'm really challenging myself to get out there and find different aspects or different venues that might challenge me differently, might change my way of thinking of how I look at a problem or how I look at a potential relationship, and say, I'm just not going to mess with that person because I don't like the way they're talking about Heartland. And like I said, I just think that we've just got to continue to make sure that we're evolving as an industry, and not just sitting here saying we've done this the same way since 1993. It's like that, but we're not in the same realm as we once were.
Well, Nick, I have good news and bad news. The good news is you and I could talk all day.
Oh man, yes.
Bad news is I have a producer behind the scenes that starts putting a scroll that says, "Thank you for joining us on Facilities First," which is my hint that he's ready to go eat lunch.
Yes,
And
sir.
so I just want to say one word that I think describes you is impact.
Well, thank you.
because you do have a huge impact on the facilities world. And I want to thank you for everything you do for both sides, for the
Appreciate
vendors
that.
and the facility managers. And I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to talking to you in the future.
Yes, sir.
And we will talk soon.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for
All right.
having me on.
Be blessed, brother.
Yep. Thank you.